Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum. This is your host to welcome you through the squeaking door into my dread domicile of disaster. Come in. Come into my parlor of panic. Or would you rather sit out here on the terrace of terror? Oh, a bit cool out here. All right, let's go indoors by all means. The house itself is always warm. You see, I had the painter give it 2 coats. All of it built solely for your poignant pleasure and dolorous diversion. The price? Oh, so reasonable. Only a pint down and a pint a month for as long as you live. Pint of what? You know what.
Tonight's Inner Sanctum mystery, The Eyes of My Murderer, was written by Emil Tepperman and stars Donald Bucher in the role of Barry with Charlotte Holland as Carolyn.
Now, let's get down to business. Tonight, we hear the story of Carolyn Medford and the strange things that happened to her when she came to visit her aunt, Loretta Medford, on that grim evening of the 10th of June. But before we hear Carolyn's story, it will be necessary to consult a police report for the facts covering the 3 hours preceding Carolyn's arrival.
I, Otto Frayne, Lieutenant of Detectives in charge of the Longview County Homicide Department, make this report of my own free will. It is well known that I have been collaborating with Loretta Medford, the writer, on a new radio series of half-hour shows based on my experiences as a homicide detective, which was to star Barry Adams in the featured role. Each evening at 9, after finishing my regular tour of police duty, it has been my custom to drive out to Loretta Medford's summer place on the North Shore, about 5 miles from town. There, we three, Loretta, Barry, and I, would work on the series till well after midnight. Last night, the 10th of June, I left my office as usual, promptly at 9. It was exactly 9:16 1/2 by my dashboard clock when I turned in from the highway to the private road leading along the shorefront to Loretta's cottage. I was a bit puzzled when I got out of the car because neither Loretta nor Barry Adams were on the porch where they usually waited for me. At that instant, it was exactly 9:17. I recall checking the time on my wristwatch to make sure I wasn't too early. 9:17. It was at that precise moment that I heard the scream. It was coming from the direction of the private boat dock at the rear of the house. I ran across the lawn toward the dock with my gun in my hand. But when I reached the dock, there was nothing to be seen or heard. The darkness was thick and black. And then, not 10 feet away from me, I heard Loretta's voice.
No, enough of the knife, please. No.
I couldn't see anything, and yet I knew someone was here, someone who had just stabbed Loretta to death and cast her body off the dock, someone who probably still had a bloody knife in his hand. Then I saw him. He was only a couple of feet away from me, just a blur in the night, too dark to see his face. But when he spoke, I knew him.
That you, Otto?
Barry. Barry Adams.
What happened, Otto? For heaven's sake, tell me what happened.
Suppose you tell me what happened.
That was Loretta.
Yes, I know it was Loretta.
Well, why are we standing here? Why don't we look for her, try to help her?
You know there's no use looking for her. Her body went over the side, and you know the current here is strong enough to carry her right out to sea.
She was murdered right here in the dark, and I wasn't 10 feet away.
Were you that far away?
What? What did you say?
Why did you kill her, Barry?
Don't be a fool, Otto. I was walking around on the other side of the house when I heard the scream. Why, I must have got here about the same time you did.
Sorry, Barry, I can't buy that.
Look here, Otto. You know I'm going to marry Carolyn, don't you?
Yes, I know you're going to marry Carolyn.
Well, then how can you imagine I'd kill her out?
It's no use, Barry. You can't talk yourself out of it. You've got to be the killer. There's no one else here on the dock.
What about you?
What?
You're on the dock.
I just got here.
So you say. so quiet. Hadn't we better wake up Mrs. Finch?
Later. We'll take a look in Loretta's library just to
You
make...
don't have to keep that gun stuck in my back.
Go on. Open the door.
I can't.
What's the matter with you?
I have a feeling we'll see Loretta in there. As always, at the dictating machine, with a cigarette between her lips.
That's your conscience. I've seen lots of murderers. Their conscience usually gets them shortly after the crime.
I didn't kill her. If Loretta were here, she'd tell us.
But she isn't. She's out in the sea, wet and cold,
No.
with seaweed clinging to her, and your knife still in her throat.
Stop it! Stop it!
Well, will you open that door?
All right.
Well, what is it? Why did you close that door again?
Loretta. She's in there.
You're crazy.
She's in there, I tell you. Her hair all matted from the sea. A bloody wound in her throat.
Get out of the way.
Don't open it.
Trying to tell me you saw a ghost? Well, if you didn't kill her, her ghost won't hurt you. Well, where is she?
She isn't here.
So you saw Loretta,
I tell you, I saw her with a wound in her throat. Say, how did you know she'd been stabbed in the throat?
What do you mean?
Just before you said she was floating in the sea with a knife in her throat. How did you know where she'd been stabbed?
Oh, I didn't know.
But you said it.
Well, that was just third-degree stuff. I was trying to paint a picture for you to break you down. We do it every day with murderers.
That's the way I saw her just now.
Sure, my picture made it so vivid in your mind you thought you saw her. Proves you killed her.
This is no illusion. She was right there, I tell you, before the mirror.
Yes. What was she doing? Standing or sitting?
She...
Or just floating?
I don't know. All I saw was her face, her tangled hair, her throat in one hand. She was pointing at something.
You got it bad, Barry. Want to sign a confession?
She was looking right at me and pointing over there to the dictating machine.
Oh, the machine, huh? How do you make this thing work?
Move the needle back to the start of the cylinder. Now press the playback switch. Right there.
I don't hear anything.
Press the button on the speaking tube.
Oh. Well?
Tonight, I am going to die. I am going to be murdered. I know because I've seen it in the eyes of my murderer. I even know the plan. The current that runs past the boat dock. The freak current that catches up any object thrown to it and carries it out to the sea. My body is to disappear. There will be no corpus delicti. Anyone else might be frightened, but I'm not. I know that I shall come back. I know that I shall be able to point to my murderer. And what's more important, protect Carolyn. Yes, Carolyn is next.
That's the end. The end of the record. Good heavens, Arthur. She knew she was going to be murdered, and she knew the killer. She said she'd come back.
Well, she's dead.
But she did come back. She pointed at the dictating machine, and Carolyn's in danger, too. Good heavens. She's coming in on the midnight train. I've got to meet her. I'll have to leave now.
You're not going anywhere, Barry. I'm arresting you for the murder of Loretta Medford.
You can't do that, Otto. Who'll meet Carolyn?
Don't worry about that. After I get you safely in a cell, I'll meet your Carolyn for you.
You want to get me out of the way, in a cell, so you can meet Carolyn and kill her, too. You're the killer.
Now, look, that kind of talk won't get you anywhere.
I won't let you do it. I'm getting out of here. See? Now! I won't let you kill Carolyn!
Stop! Stop or I'll shoot! What? Loretta! I must have been mistaken. Imagine it. I let Barry get away. I'll never find him in the dark. That voice could have sworn.
Good evening, Lieutenant Strain. And what is it that you could have sworn?
Mrs. Finch.
Please excuse the night clothes. I was rudely awakened in the midst of a troubled sleep.
Mrs. Finch, did you just call out to me just now? Did you say Don't shoot, Otto.
I'd not be likely to say such a thing to you, Lieutenant Frayne. And was it Mr. Barry you were going to shoot, whom I just saw scooting out of here like a streak of lightning?
I don't understand a thing like this.
A thing like what?
I just heard, or thought I heard, Loretta Medford say something to me.
Oh, and not being Scotch like me, you don't understand how it was that a dead woman spoke to you.
How did you know she was dead?
You needn't become so excited. It was in my sleep I saw.
You saw her in your sleep?
Yes, and it troubled me so that I awoke. She came before me with her hair all dank and tangled, and the salt water glistening on her face in the dark, and her throat bleeding and raw.
You saw her like that?
Oh, yes. And she spoke to me.
I don't believe you. I don't believe in such things.
You don't, eh? Then who was it that spoke to you a moment ago and told you not to shoot?
I don't know.
Remember, I told you this was really Carolyn Medford's story. You've heard Lieutenant Otto Frayne's report of what happened before midnight. That was just the introduction. Now we come to the crux of the story. What happened after midnight, when that gad-about ghost really started to walk. And here's Caroline herself to tell it.
It's not difficult to imagine the sense of shock with which I read Otto's report of the murder of Aunt Loretta. It was Otto who met me at the train instead of Barry. He didn't explain where Barry was. Instead, he handed me the report, which he had typed at the headquarters before coming to meet me. I read it in his car with the aid of a flashlight while he drove to Aunt Loretta's. When I finished reading, I just sat there with the papers in my lap. I felt something tight catching in my throat. I couldn't cry. If I had been able to cry, it might have been better.
I'm sorry, Carolyn, about Barry.
I don't believe it.
How well do you know him? When did you first meet?
Last time I visited here, in April when school closed for Easter.
Oh, you were only here for a week.
We've written regularly ever since. He proposed to me by mail.
So you don't really know him very well.
Well enough to marry him, Otto.
A man could be that kind of killer, and you'd never guess it to look at him or talk to him, or even from the way he made love to you.
Please, Otto.
I'm sorry. You know how I feel about you, don't you?
Yes, I know. If it weren't for Barry...
If it weren't for Barry, I might have a chance.
Oh, Otto, please be kind to him.
You love him so much? All right, Carolyn. I'll tear up that report.
Oh, no. I don't mean that, Otto. I mean, prove that he's innocent. Find the real killer. Otto, don't you see? It might have been somebody else, a madman, maybe an escaped lunatic.
There's only one trouble with that theory, Carolyn.
What?
I was the only other person on the dock.
The cottage was brilliant with lights in every room when we arrived, as if to drive away evil spirits and ghosts. I was so tired and numb from the long train ride and from the shattering news I had heard that I stood with my eyes half closed while Otto rang the bell and Mrs. Finch opened the door.
Come in, Miss Carolyn. Oh, come in, Lieutenant.
Ah. My men all gone?
Yes, they left a little while ago. Oh, Miss Carolyn, you look exhausted. Come, I have your room ready. You'll be wanting to sleep.
Yes.
If only you'll not be bothered by any apparition.
Now, just a minute.
Yes, Otto.
Mrs. Finch, what makes you think she'll be bothered by an apparition?
Didn't it come to me? Didn't Mr. Barry see it? Didn't it even make itself heard to you, a scoffer? Then it will surely come to Miss Carolyn.
You believe that, Carolyn?
I don't know, Otto. Loretta was so interested in the supernatural, the possibility of communicating with the dead. If you look in her library, you'll find she has almost every book ever written on the subject.
That may be so, but do you believe in it?
Loretta often told me if she died before I did, she'd manage to get in touch with me. Mrs. Finch, who could have hated Loretta enough to kill her?
Don't bother your pretty head with that now. There'll be time for talk in the morning.
No, I want to know now.
Be better to sleep now.
No, please, Mrs. Finch. You knew her. You knew her so well. You've been with her for 14 years.
Yes, 14 years. Long enough to learn to hate her.
What? What did you say?
Don't look so startled. You, too, have cause to hate her, and so has Mr. Barry.
What are you talking about?
Her, with her 38 years weighing heavy on her, and all those peroxides and creams and shampoos that she used. You know why? Because she wanted Mr. Barry for herself.
Oh, no, I can't believe that.
Burned her inside to think of Mr. Barry marrying you. She would gladly have died to stop it. And hasn't she done it? She goaded Mr. Barry into killing her, and now he'll be hunted and caught and executed. And wherever she is at this moment, if she can laugh, she's laughing.
Oh, no, Mrs. Finch. How long I lay there after Mrs. Finch had left, I don't know. I was cold and shivering. My eyes were wide and sleepless as I lay taut in the bed, and my nerves were raw. So raw that the slightest sound grated. That sound at the window. My eyes flew toward it, and I glimpsed at the shapeless form out there in the night. And I saw the window slowly inching up. I must have leaped up by instinct like a terrified animal. Then I was at the door, and it snatched it open. The corridor was still. There wasn't a sound. I dared not look back into my room at the window. I ran across the hall and pulled open the door of Mrs. Finch's room. Mrs. Finch! Mrs. Finch! There was no answer. The room was empty. Mrs. Finch wasn't there. Blindly, I turned and ran to the stairs. How I got down them without falling, I'll never know. But at the foot of the stairs, I stopped. And everything within me seemed to congeal. For there at my feet lay the body of Mrs. Finch. And her eyes were wide and staring. And her mouth was set in a terrible grin. And her head rested at a crazy angle on her shoulder. For her throat was cut almost from ear to ear.
Stop it! Carolyn, stop it! I tell you, stop it! It's all right, Carolyn, darling. It's all right, darling. It's I, Barry. There now. Take it easy, honey. That's right.
I felt the glaze leaving my eyes and the rush of blood subsiding from my temples. And then I saw Barry. He was standing there, and in his hand was a knife. And blood was dripping from the blade.
Oh, now, take it easy, Carolyn.
Barry, the knife you killed.
Oh, I didn't kill Mrs. Finch. I just picked the knife up in the kitchen. The killer must have thrown it away. Who's that?
It's Otto. He must have heard me scream. He was watching for you outside in his car.
I've got to get away, Carolyn. Why are you looking at me like that? You don't think I killed Mrs. Finch? Or Loretta? Oh, what's that?
Stand still, Barry, or I'll shoot to kill. Now, don't move while I climb in through this window.
Otto!
All right, Barry. Drop the knife. Well, can you talk your way out of this one?
Now, look here, Otto.
They stood there arguing, and I didn't know what they were saying. I only felt a great and terrible weariness, as if I had had enough of living, and would welcome death if only it meant sleep and rest. When I awoke, everything was still. I must have fainted. I realized with a shock where I was. I was in Loretta's bedroom. Her bedroom, which adjoined the library. I pushed myself off the bed and went over to the library door. I could hear Barry and Otto talking in the library. Their voices were heated. Numbly, my fingers found the catch and locked the door. Then I went to the other door leading to the corridor, and I turned the catch on that one, too. All I wanted was to be alone forever. Alone with the terrible throbbing in my temples and the emptiness inside of me. I had to believe Otto now. In spite of myself, I had to believe him. I had seen Barry with that knife in his hand. Those shots from the library. I sat up in the bed. 2 men in the library. One of them had killed the other. Which? Otto had had the gun, but Barry might have tricked him somehow. Which was dead? Which was alive? Someone was trying the library door. Oh, which one?
Carolyn! Can you hear me, Carolyn? Are you awake?
Barry.
Open the door, Carolyn! I must talk to you.
I won't answer. You'll think I'm asleep.
Carolyn! Someone has killed Otto. He was shot through the window. Let me in, I tell you. I've got to protect you.
I ought to let him in. Let him kill me. What's the use of living? Loretta said she would come to me. Maybe if Loretta comes, she'll take me back with her to the land of the dead.
An excellent idea, Carolyn.
Loretta! You did come back as you promised.
As you see, Carolyn.
But why isn't your hair all matted and dank and the way the others saw you and the wound in your throat that the others saw?
The others saw what I wanted them to see, Carolyn.
I don't understand, Loretta. Do you mean that you're really not dead?
Exactly, my dear.
But you were murdered out on the dock. Barry and Otto heard it.
They heard it, but they didn't see it.
Was it a trick?
Yes, dear, it was a trick. I was never on the dock. I was beneath it in a rowboat.
Oh.
Yes. And I screamed from the rowboat and made Barry and Otto each think that the other had murdered me.
That gun you're holding, you just shot Otto with it?
Yes, of course.
So Barry is really innocent.
Yes, dear.
Oh, Loretta, you've done all of this because you really hate me.
Yes, dear. I hate you so terribly that I'd be happy to die if I could destroy you with myself.
It's on account of Barry, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, I could have forgiven you everything. Your youth, your looks, everything but Barry. I could have had him if you hadn't come along. But now you shan't have him because I'm going to kill you.
Loretta.
Then when Barry's caught, he'll pay for you and for all the others.
Loretta.
Stop that gun, Loretta!
No! Barry, you killed her.
I had to, Carolyn. She'd have killed you.
Barry.
Darling, don't cry. Oh, there'll be no more ghosts between us. Ever.
There now. All's well that ends in a clinch. Yeah, I really don't know what to say about this. It's so seldom anything on Inner Sanctum ends in a clinch. That's because it takes 2 to make a clinch, and we rarely have 2 characters left alive at the end of our story. Anyway, I suppose I could call tonight's tale a success story. You know, it's usually a story about a self-made man. Well, Loretta was a self-made ghost, wasn't she?
We invite you to join us again next week at this time for Inner Sanctum. This is the United States Armed Forces Radio Service, the voice of information and education.
Hey everyone, Waddle from Watchwaddle here. Hope you're all enjoying today's radio show, and don't forget to check out some of Watchwaddle's tunes. So round, so firm, so fully packed with hits. Screwy Forest's Watchwaddle cartoons. Available on Channel Watchwaddle.
The Sealed Book. Once again, the keeper of the book has opened the ponderous door to the secret vault, wherein is kept the great sealed book, in which is recorded all the secrets and mysteries of mankind through the ages. Here are tales of every kind, tales of murder, of madness, of dark deeds, strange and terrible beyond all belief. Keeper of the book, I would know what tale we tell this time. Open the great book and let us read. Slowly, the great book opens. One by one, the keeper of the book turns the pages and stops. Ah, the strange story of a murderer who found that justice has an uncanny way of working itself out, as in the tale titled, Murder Must Be Paid For. Here is the tale, Murder Must Be Paid For, as it is written in the pages of the sealed book. Our story begins in the office of Judge Wallace, Lucy Holden's legal advisor. Judge Wallace, an anxious expression on his face, is pleading with the beautiful young woman.
Lucy, listen to me. You mustn't do this. Believe me, you're making a terrible mistake.
I don't think so, Judge Wallace. I love Tom, and I'm going to marry him.
Lucy, I didn't want to tell you this because no one can prove it. But Tom Barrow murdered your father.
I know a lot of people think he murdered Dad, but I don't believe it.
I wish I didn't. Listen, Lucy, Tom and your father were on a hunting trip. Your father died with a rifle bullet through his heart from his own rifle. Tom said your father dropped the gun accidentally and it went off.
Yes, I know all that.
Do you know that Tom robbed your own father on a business deal and would have gone to jail if your father had lived another week?
I know people say so. But have you any proof?
No. Your father died. There's no case.
Well, Judge, You've done your duty and warned me. So the responsibility is mine.
All right, Lucy. You know, you've grown very pretty since you went away to school. 4 years. I'm sorry we haven't seen anything of you in all that time.
I'm sorry, too, but Dad wanted me to stay east. You know, Judge Wallace, I met my sister when I was in New York last winter.
Your sister?
Mm-hmm.
What sister, Lucy?
Doreen. Don't you know about her?
Doreen? No. I never knew you had a sister.
I didn't either until Dad wrote me and told me about it. But you knew Dad's first wife ran away with an actor a year after she and Dad were married.
Yes, I knew that, but that's all.
Well, Doreen was his first child. Her mother took her along when she ran away. I wondered if Dad had mentioned Doreen in his will.
No, he didn't.
Well, I'm going to send her some money anyway. Will that be all right?
Oh, yes, of course. It's your money now. The whole $1 million.
Thank you, Judge Wallace. Well, I have to go now. Tom's waiting for me. We're going to be married right away.
And Lucy married Tom Barrow, big and blonde and arrogantly self-assured. Tongues wagged over the marriage, but ignoring the gossip, the happy couple settled down at Barrow House, on the edge of high cliffs, looking out over the Pacific. There, Lucy wrote many letters, especially to her half-sister, Doreen.
Dear Doreen, I hope that at last you're going to have a chance to visit Tom and me here at Barrow House. I know you'd like Tom, and he'd like you.
Hello, darling.
Oh.
More letters to Doreen?
Oh, yes, Tom. I'm trying to persuade her to come visit us, and since her show's going to be in San Francisco all this week.
Oh, good. If she's half as pretty as you are, I'll welcome her with open arms.
Well, people in New York used to take us for twins, but she's really much more sophisticated than I am. She's an actress.
Sounds more and more interesting. But how about coming for a speedboat ride, hon? Water's just right.
Oh, I can't. This is the day I volunteered to help the sisters at the Mission Hospital.
Oh, for Pete's sake. That's a 30-mile drive, 20 to town and 10 more beyond. You won't get back till after dark.
I'm sorry, Tom, but I promise.
And so, a short time later, Lucy drove off to her volunteer nursing work. So she was not present to see the dusty taxi that drove up to the house several hours later, leaving a visitor.
I wonder if anyone's home. Ahoy, the house. Is anyone in?
Nobody but me. Who are you? Oh, why, Lucy.
Wrong guess, mister. Try again.
Holy smoke, I thought... But no, your hair's done differently, and you're taller. Say, well, you can't be Doreen.
Why not? Is there a law against it?
A mystery sister here at last. And on the day Lucy's away.
You mean I've missed her?
Oh, she'll be back tonight, and you're staying, aren't you?
Can't. I have to get back to town to catch the 7 o'clock train for Frisco.
No, that's too bad, but, well, there's no reason you and I shouldn't get acquainted before then, is there?
None I can think of offhand.
Well, then come on in. I'll show you around, and then I'll mix us a couple of drinks. Okay?
Okay.
That tastes good. Well, how do you like our little place, now that you've seen it?
I go for it. Imagine sitting out here on the cliffs every evening and watching the sun set into the Pacific.
Pay us a visit, and you can do it.
Maybe I will. How high are these cliffs anyway, Tom?
80 feet, straight down to the Pacific. There's deep water at the foot of them.
Oh, I'd hate to fall off. But as for the visit idea, on second thought, I don't think I will.
Why not? We'd love to have you. I know I would.
That's just the trouble. I might find myself poaching on little Lucy's territory.
You mean that?
Yes. Now I can understand how little Lucy came to fall for the guy who killed her father.
So you've heard that gossip, eh?
Yes, but not from Lucy. You did kill him, didn't you?
Of course not. It was an accident. A very regrettable accident.
Oh, of course. Now, how about driving me back to town? I'll just have time to catch my train.
All right, but you're going to come again. I know it.
Well, maybe.
Well, you know, I think you and I could understand each other. It's too bad I didn't meet you first instead of Lucy.
That evening, when Lucy returned, she was upset to learn that she had missed Doreen. But Tom said that Doreen had promised to come again in a few weeks. And then, because Lucy was tired, they retired early. But during the night, Tom awoke to find Lucy shaking him.
Tom!
Huh? What's the matter? What is it?
Tom, you were talking in your sleep.
Talking in my sleep?
Yes. I thought you might be having a nightmare.
No, I'm all right.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom, but when I heard you talking in your sleep, I thought
what was I saying?
Well, nothing that I could understand. Why?
No reason, just curious, that's all. I've never talked in my sleep before that I know of.
Oh, yes, you have, darling. Several times the last few weeks.
Lucy, are you telling me the truth?
Why, of course. Why should I lie about such a silly little thing?
No, of course you wouldn't. Lucy.
Yes, Tom?
Suppose I sleep in the corner room after this.
In the corner room? Why, Tom, you aren't serious.
I'm perfectly serious. The realization that I might be disturbing you would make me more and more nervous until I wouldn't be able to sleep at all.
Well, if that's really the case...
It is, and anyway, we'll try it for a while, shall we?
After Tom moved to the corner room, there was an atmosphere of strain between him and Lucy. Lucy, however, pretended not to notice it and went about as though everything was just as it had been. She wrote many long letters to her sister Doreen, but Tom noticed that whenever he came close to her, she covered the letters so that he could not see what she was writing. His suspicions aroused, he waited until she left one of them in the mailbox for the rural delivery carrier to pick up. As soon as she was out of sight, he swiftly ripped it open and read it.
Now, Lucy, we'll see what you're so carefully hiding from me. Dear Doreen, I have dreadful news for you. Now I know that Tom did kill my father. Night after night, I've been listening outside his door, becoming more and more certain. Last night, he cried out distinctly, I killed him, but they'll never prove it, never. Doreen, what shall I do? If he killed Father, he may kill me. I go in fear of my life. I've taken one of his hunting knives, and I carry it around with me to protect myself in case he attacks me. So, that's how it is. That's what you've been up to, eh? Well, Lucy, I think that you and I must have a little talk.
But when Tom returned to the house, Lucy was not there. At last he located her, standing at her favorite spot on the cliffs near the house, a spot that overhung the sea which beat unceasingly against the rocks beneath, his footsteps muffled by the sound of the surf. Tom came quietly up behind her.
Lucy!
Oh, Tom, you frightened me.
Lucy, I want to talk to you.
What about?
I just read the letter you wrote your sister.
You opened it?
Yes. You little fool, you know perfectly well such evidence means nothing in a court, nothing. Now, why not be sensible? Come on, Lucy, let's forget the whole thing. It's over and done with.
No, stay away from me. Don't come near me.
Lucy, put that knife down.
No.
I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just trying to talk sense to you.
No, don't come any closer.
Lucy, be careful. You'll go over the cliff if you... Lucy, look out!
And now to continue the story, as it is written in the sealed book. Tom Barrow, a look of horror on his face, stared over the edge of the cliff from which Lucy had fallen. Lucy was gone, swallowed up in the huge waves 80 feet below. Tom searched desperately for her until darkness fell and forced him to return to the house. He strove to calm his nerves and plan a course of action.
That's better. Now maybe I can think. They'll say I murdered her, but they won't be able to prove it. No matter what they think, they'll be able to prove nothing. Then the joke will be on Lucy. I'll inherit the whole estate her father left her. And that is a laugh. Hello?
Hello, brother-in-law.
Doreen, where are you?
In town. Is Lucy there? I thought I'd come out and visit you two.
No, she's not here just now.
Well, when will she be back? Or don't you want me to come see you?
Yes, but... Doreen, listen.
Yes?
There's something I've got to talk to you about, privately. Where are you now?
At the restaurant across from the railroad station.
Stay there for half an hour. I'll meet you there. I have a proposition for you, and I think you're going to like it. So that's the whole story, Doreen. I just wanted to talk sense to her, and she backed away from me and fell over the cliff.
So you killed her, did you, Tom?
No, I tell you I didn't. It was an accident.
All right, it was an accident. As a matter of fact, I'm inclined to believe you. Now, what did you want to talk to me about?
Look, Doreen, it should have been you and me, not me and Lucy. You and I belong together.
Maybe. Go on, Tom.
Now, here's my idea. You look like Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to take Lucy's place.
Take Lucy's place?
Yes. We'll be married secretly. You'll call yourself Lucy. No one will ever know the difference. And I'll give you half the estate that Lucy inherited from her father, because now that she's dead, I'll inherit it all from her father. Think, Doreen. $500,000.
So you want me to take Lucy's place, Tom? Clever. Yes, very clever. No public outcry, no investigation, no suspicion of you.
No, Doreen, I'm crazy about you. And we'll get along swell together. We'll travel, have fun. You'll be rich.
Yes, I'll be rich, Tom.
Then you'll do it.
No.
What?
I have a better scheme than that.
What do you mean?
If you're convicted of murdering Lucy, Tom, you can't inherit her estate. Then it'll come to me as her next of kin. That way I'll have it all.
Doreen.
So I'm not going to fall in with your plan. Instead, I'm going to work one of my own. I'm going to see you convicted of murdering Lucy.
And so, despite Tom's frantic arguments, Doreen insisted that he go with her to Lucy's old friend, Judge Wallace. Judge Wallace called in the prosecuting attorney, and they heard Tom's story in silence.
It won't wash, Barrow. First the father, then the daughter die in accidents, with you the only witness. It's too much for anyone to believe.
Judge Wallace, I have letters from Lucy proving that she'd heard him admit in his sleep that he killed her father and that she was afraid of him.
How about it, Mr. Roden? Can we hold him for murder?
I'm afraid not, Judge Wallace. The letters would help, but they're not enough legally to win a conviction. Unless Lucy's body can be found with some evidence of murder about it, the law can do nothing.
Lucy's body will be found sooner or later. I'm going to offer a reward for it. And then we'll see whether you can be convicted or not.
But a week went by, and a second week, and Lucy's body was not recovered from the restless waters of the Pacific. A third week, and Tom Barrow began to breathe easily again. Then one morning he received a call from the prosecuting attorney to view the body of a young woman that had been found on the beach by fishermen not far from Barrow House.
Well, here I am. Where's the body?
Is it Lucy, Mr. Roden?
I prefer not to give an opinion till you've both seen her. Attendant, open number 17, please. I lift the sheet so you can see the face. I'm afraid it's badly battered, probably by rocks.
Oh, that's not Lucy. I'm positive of it.
Well, Miss Holden, what do you say?
I'm not sure.
Now, I have everything that was on the body here in this envelope. 2 rings and a silver pin. Here they are. Mr. Barrow, do you recognize them?
No. No, I don't.
I can't be sure about the rings, but that pin was Lucy's. I sent it to her for a wedding present. If you look on the back, you will see engraved, "To L from D with love."
That would be to Lucy from Doreen, wouldn't it?
It would.
I think that settles the identification. But there's one more point, as you'll see when I turn back the sheet further.
A knife. A knife through her heart.
No, it can't be.
Your knife, Mr. Barrow, with your name stamped on it. Thomas Barrow, you're under arrest for murder.
Thomas Barrow, you have been found guilty of murder as charged. The sentence of this court, accordingly, is that at 4:00 in the afternoon on the day of June 3rd, you shall suffer death in the lethal chamber of the state penitentiary, and may God have mercy on your soul.
And now to continue the story, as it is written in the sealed book. Tom Barrow's lawyer appealed the death verdict, but his appeal was rejected. The evidence was far too overwhelming. Tom kept protesting, but of course no one believed him, except the visitor whom the guard brought to his death cell one afternoon.
Here you are, Miss Doreen.
Thank you, guard.
You can talk to him for 10 minutes, that's all. I'll stand back here where I can keep an eye on her, but I won't be listening.
Hello, Tom.
You devil. You did this. If it hadn't been for you, I wouldn't be here now.
But you are here, where you belong. You ought to be amused at the way things turned out, Tom.
If it hadn't been for you and those letters and that knife. You know how that knife came to be in Lucy's body.
Yes, I do know. Lucy put it there.
Lucy put it there?
Yes, Tom. You killed Lucy's father, but the law couldn't touch you. So Lucy married you, just so she could see you punished.
I don't believe you.
You will. First, Lucy made you think that you talked in your sleep. That you'd admitted the truth that way.
Made me think I'd talked in my sleep.
Yes, because you didn't ever. But when you got frightened and insisted on having a separate room, she knew definitely you were guilty. Then she carried out the plan she'd made long before, to see you punished.
You're crazy. It was all an accident. She fell off the cliff.
Yes, Tom, that's right. She fell off the cliff, but she's not dead. In college, Lucy was a swimming champion. She'd dive from that cliff many times. When she fell, she simply swam underwater until she was out of sight behind some rocks. And then she swam ashore. A few miles down the beach, she had a motorboat hidden in an old boathouse. She reached it, changed her clothes, and got to a fishing village down the coast in the boat. Then she simply took a bus to town. No one paid any attention to her.
But the body, her rings...
That wasn't Lucy's body. It was the body of a girl who happened to resemble her in size and coloring.
I knew it.
That girl had been killed in an automobile accident. Lucy was able to secure her body, never mind how, and concealed it in the water in the boathouse only a day or two before she put her plan into operation. After she fell off the cliff, she put her rings and pin on the body and thrust the knife into the heart. And after 3 weeks in the water, well, you understand.
So that's it. Well, go on. What's the rest of it?
When the time came, I saw to it that the body was taken from the boathouse and put on the beach where it could be found. And then I identified it. And here you are, Tom.
You devils, both of you. But you won't get away with it. I'll get my lawyers to find Lucy.
I'm afraid that's impossible. No one can find Lucy.
What do you mean, if she's alive?
She's alive, but no one will find her, Tom. Because, Tom, I'm Lucy, too. I'm both Doreen and Lucy, you see.
You can't be.
Oh, but I am. Think, Tom. Did you ever see Doreen and Lucy together?
Of course, that day you went to the mission.
Yes. It was easy to stop in town, change my clothes, fix my hair differently, put on lots of makeup and high-heel shoes, and come back as Doreen, the sister I'd been so carefully making you believe in all along.
I should have guessed. Why
should you? No one else did. There was a real Doreen once who died as a baby. But that gave me the idea. And I made you think Doreen had her own selfish motive for seeing you convicted, so you wouldn't suspect we were both the same girl.
You devil.
Perhaps some people would say what I've done is wrong. But I don't think so. Because you killed my father. And murder must be paid for, Tom. As you're going to pay.
Guard!
What is it? What do you want?
Call the warden. My wife isn't dead. This is her. Do you hear? It's all a trick.
Oh, I'm afraid his mind has given away under the strain, guard.
Yes, you'd better leave now, miss. We'll look after him.
Yes, thank you. I'm afraid his mind is gone completely.
Don't let her get away. I tell you, she's my wife. She's Lucy, my wife.
Now, take it easy. Take it easy. The warden will be here in a minute, and you can talk to him all you like. On your way to the lethal chamber.
No, I'm innocent. I tell you, I've been framed. She's not dead. My wife's not dead. I'm innocent.
And so ends the tale. Murder must be paid for. As it is written in the sealed book, Tom Barrow paid the supreme penalty, though he protested his innocence to the last. Strange indeed are the ways of justice, from which no mortal can escape. And now, keeper of the book, before you close the great volume, show us the tale we tell next time. This one. Ah, yes. A tale of an old woman who for 40 years lived alone in a huge old New England mansion. A mansion in which death was the master. A tale titled To Have and to Hold. Be sure to be with us again next time, when the sound of the great gong heralds another strange and exciting tale from The Sealed Book. The Sealed Book, produced and directed by Jock McGregor, is written by Bob Arthur and David Cogan.
Introducing Spooky Goop, horrifying monster makeup you make up at home. Spooky Goop's bubbling lizard lips, backbones, and toes create a ghoulish goo that makes a monster out of you.
Now that's the face no mother could love.
Spooky Goop, spine-tingling makeup for Halloween or any unearthly occasion.
Trick or treat!
You've come for my delicious cereal called Chocula.
It's chocolatey good.
With a devilishly good chocolatey flavor and tasty marshmallows.
Wrong air count. Kids come calling for my Frankenberry cereal. It's frightfully good with strawberry flavor and tasty marshmallows.
What a treat!
Called Chocula.
Frankenberry. We like both.
You can enjoy this good, nutritious breakfast with
Frankenberry. Count Chocula.
This week, guest quacking on the Bah Ghoulie Show, Waddle the Duck. And here's Waddle. Hey folks, Waddle from Watchwaddle here. Hope you're enjoying today's radio program. And if you're considering getting a new radio to listen to them, why not get one with the newest innovation, the 4-speed record player? Because available now is our newest hits from Watchwaddle Production. Check out me and the gang and our hilarious, zany, and crazy tunes, filled with spoofs, gags, and jokes. Available in our playlist collection. Check them out for some cheap laughs and running gags. Well, and when we say running gags, we ain't kidding, brother. Screwy Forrest's Watchwaddle Cartoons. Available on Channel Watchwaddle. The Bah Ghoulie Show is brought to you by OTR Halloween Holidays.
No, stay where you are. Do not break the stillness of this moment, for this is a time of mystery, a time when imagination is free and moves forward swiftly, silently. This is the Haunting Hour. Death by request. A man sits quietly by his fire, his eyes drawn to the shifting, darting tongues of flame. The crackle of the burning wood breaks in upon the silence, and the man stirs comfortably in his chair. Roger Stevens is at peace with the world. Lost in the stillness of his study, the goodwill of the universe seems crowded into this man's successful life. But there is a deception to this peaceful scene of contentment, for at this very moment, the life of Roger Stevens abruptly changes its course. There it is, the phone jangling harshly, cutting the silence into jarring bits of sound. Roger Stevens becomes aware of the insistent ringing. He rises from his chair, walks toward the telephone. He is wondering who can be calling at this late hour. It is almost midnight. There, he is lifting up the phone.
Hello?
Hello?
Who is this, please?
Is this Roger Stevens?
Yes, but who's calling?
Did you live in Oak City about 10 years ago?
Yes. See here, who the devil is this?
My name doesn't matter, Mr. Stevens, but I'd like you to know that I'm a friend of Mike.
Mike? Mike who?
You know who I mean, all right?
Say, if this is some sort of joke, it's a rather poor one. I'm afraid I'll have to bid you good night.
Don't do that, Mr. Stevens. You'd better hear what I have to say.
Who are you?
I guess you wouldn't know me without my wings, Mr. Stevens, but you might call me an avenging angel.
And, well, you're drunk. Go home and sleep it off.
I've been looking for you for 10 years. I thought you might have changed your name, but you played it smart. After the verdict of suicide, you figured you were in the clear.
Now, look here, whoever you are. This ceases to be an amusing situation. If you don't tell me who you are and what you want, I'm going to hang up.
All right, Mr. Stevens, if that's the way you want it, okay, I'll give it to you straight. 10 years ago, Mike was in business with you. He found you were stealing from company funds. You killed him. Forged the books to make it look like you'd been the guilty man. And planted the idea of suicide. I never believed it. Never.
Why, you're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about.
And when I came home, I tried to tell the police that it couldn't have been suicide, but they wouldn't listen. You had left the city. No one knew where.
Now, listen to me, you fool. You've got the wrong man. I don't know any man named Mike. I never killed anyone.
I know you murdered Mike, Mr. Stevens. I've got the proof. But I'm not giving it to the cops. I'm going to kill you myself. I'm going to make you suffer like Mike.
Now, look, I tell you, you're wrong. I don't know who you are or what you want. If this is some joke...
You know it's not a joke.
Now, look, if you don't leave me alone, I'll call the police.
It's a good idea, Mr. Stevens. Why not tell the police you're a murderer? It might be better that way. It would clear Mike. Okay, then. 2 days are all you get. What? Confess the murder in 2 days. Or I'll kill you myself.
Confess to what? I've done nothing.
2 days, Mr. Stevens. 2 days.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Now, I've heard stories like this before, Mr. Stevens. There's no cause for alarm.
But this fellow threatened to kill me, Lieutenant.
Naturally, that's part of the routine. These practical jokers have rather wild imaginations.
Lieutenant, I'm not yet convinced.
Take my word for it, then. I've been a police officer for 20 years, and I know a phony threat when I hear it. As for this murder you're supposed to have committed, well, I'm afraid the verdict is not guilty.
Hello?
Sorry to bother you again so soon, Mr. Stevens.
What is it? Why don't you let me alone?
I'll be around for 2 days. Unless you just made that unnecessary.
What do you mean?
I just followed you to the police station. Did you confess to killing Mike?
Oh, stop it. Stop it. Now, this has gone too far.
Carrying murder around on your conscience for 10 years must have worn you down.
Now, listen to me, whoever you are. I don't know what you're talking about. I've been to the police, but only to report you for the nuisance you are. Now, I've a great deal of work to do, and I need my rest. Please don't bother me again. Good night. There. That should end it. Oh, Walter. Come in. I'm glad to see you.
Sorry to disturb you this late, Roger. But I noticed a light in your window as I was passing by. Say, you look rather drawn.
Huh?
And reading a mystery or something?
Worse than that, Walter. I've been in one. You what?
Oh, well, that's wonderful. Here, let me sit down by the fire. Tell me all about it.
It's not that amusing, Walter.
Oh, I'm sorry, Roger. I didn't realize you were so upset. Well, tell Professor Stone all about it.
Well, it began about 2 hours ago. Some fellow called me up on the phone and insisted that I'd murdered a friend of his.
Roger, are you making this up?
Of course not. I told you it was incredible. This fellow, whoever he is, claimed that his friend used to be a partner of mine, that he supposedly committed suicide, but in reality, I'd killed him.
Roger, I've only known you for a few years, but it's never quite struck me that you were a Jekyll and Hyde character.
I went immediately to the police, but they insist it's only a practical joke.
What else could it be?
Well, then how do you account for the fact that a few moments after I returned home, this madman phoned me again? He insisted that I confess the murder, and he's given me 2 days in which to do it.
And if you don't confess this imaginary murder...
He's going to kill me.
Say, he's covered everything. A very thorough fellow.
But who can it be?
Oh, probably one of the boys down at the office. You've been driving him pretty hard, you know.
Well, I've got to, Walter. I promised the architectural blueprints for the new Wilson skyscraper by next week. If I don't deliver, I might as well declare bankruptcy. That's the biggest job I've ever gotten.
Yes, I know. Your bid was a few thousand lower than mine. I hope you make it, Roger. It's a wonderful chance for you.
Don't I know it? Everything was going along beautifully until this maniac began to bother me tonight. I'm worried about this. He must have me confused with someone else.
Oh, forget about that, Roger. You've heard the last of him.
Ah, there it is again.
Shall I answer?
No, I will.
Maybe it's someone else.
At this time of night? Hello?
I'm outside the house, waiting.
Why don't you tell me who you are?
Here, let me have it. Hello? Hello? There's no one on here. Hello? 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 You're not hearing things, are you, Roger?
Please, Walter, not from you. I couldn't stand it.
Couldn't you recognize the voice?
No, I can't. It's not familiar at all.
I wonder why he left the wire when he heard my voice.
Perhaps he knew you would have recognized him.
Yes, that's probably it, Roger. Well, whoever it is, you'll be able to dress him down properly when you discover his identity. Then it'll be your turn to call him up all night long.
If it were only as simple as that. If only...
If only what, Roger?
Oh, nothing, Walter, nothing.
Well, I'll be getting along, Roger. You look as if you need some rest.
I hope I can get it.
Better see to it that you do. You have to be in shape for those Wilson building blueprints tomorrow.
Somehow they seem unimportant now.
Look here, Roger. You're letting this thing get the better of you. Now, hold on to yourself. Don't let this jokester upset you.
Thanks, Walter. I'll be all right.
That's the boy. Well, have a good night's sleep.
Well, it's about time you showed up, Stevens. I've been waiting here for you at my office for an hour.
Well, I'm very sorry, Mr. Green. I came as quickly as I could.
Do you have the blueprints for the Wilson building?
Well, you know, it's quite an assignment, Mr. Green.
I'm aware of that, Stevens. But your company promised those plans would be ready for me this week. I've got to start construction the day after tomorrow.
Well, you'll have them, Mr. Green. I'm finishing them this evening at home.
Very well, then. I'll expect the blueprints no later than to noon tomorrow.
Well, they'll be ready. I promise you that.
And if you fail, Stevens, you're through as an architect. I promise you that.
Joe, is my car ready?
Oh, hello, Mr. Stevens. Yeah, sure. It's all serviced.
Oh, thanks, Joe.
Oh, say, Mr. Stevens.
Yes, Joe?
Some fella passed by and left this message for you.
Who was he?
I don't know. I never saw him before.
All right, Joe. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Stevens.
Mike and me are waiting. Tell the cops the truth about the murder. You'll have one more day. Best regards, the Angel.
I've never heard of any criminal called the Angel.
Well, this fellow's no ordinary crook, Lieutenant. He's got me confused with someone else, someone who really murdered his friend.
We could check with the police of Oak City, but you don't even know the name of your hypothetical victim. Besides, it's obviously a hoax. You're a reputable citizen.
But can't you trace this man by his note?
Even a Ouija board couldn't help me with this, Mr. Stevens. It's printed, and there's no legitimate signature. Any man in this city could have written it.
Well, isn't there anything you can do?
Frankly, I don't think anything's necessary. I still feel this is nothing but the work of a practical joker.
Look, can't you give me a police guard?
Tell you what I'll do, Mr. Stevens. I'll post a man outside your house. That's the best I can do at the moment.
Well...
That's all I can do.
What about the telephone call?
I can't stop calls from coming through. But don't worry too much about that. Your angel is bound to get a wrong number sometime.
All these plans for the building. I've got to finish them. If he'd only leave me alone. I can't think. Green must have them. Construction the day after tomorrow. No, I won't answer. Why doesn't he let me alone? If it only stopped ringing.
Hello, Mr. Stevens. I've been waiting for you to pick up the phone. I know you're there. That's all right. You don't have to answer. I guess you're tired. 10 years of hiding would be tough on any man. But it'll soon be over. Just one more day. Good night, Mr. Stevens. It won't be long now.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Stevens.
Operator.
Yes, sir?
Quickly, trace that call that just came to my apartment.
What was that, Mr. Stevens?
I said trace that call I just got.
I don't understand, sir. There hasn't been a call to your apartment for 2 hours.
The life of Roger Stevens has turned sharply from its security and contentment to a torment of fear and anxiety. A strange man has been phoning him constantly, threatening him with death unless he confesses a murder to the police. Stevens has one more day left in which to confess this crime of which he knows nothing, or he will be killed. Roger Stevens feels a growing terror in his heart. Just a few moments ago, he had received another telephone call. But upon asking the switchboard operator to institute an immediate tracer, he was informed that no one had phoned his apartment for the past 2 hours. Roger Stevens sits in his study, staring vacantly into the fire, the dull glaze of fear in his eyes. The jangling of the phone again, like a sharp, sudden pain. He jumps up quickly, runs rapidly across the room.
Hello? Hello?
I understand you were looking for me, Mr. Stevens.
Oh, yes. I'd like to find you.
You'll see me soon enough. You can count on that.
Look, why don't you come to see me now, huh? Maybe we can talk this over.
I made our bargain, Mr. Stevens. There's nothing else to say.
I'll pay you anything, only go away. Leave me alone.
You haven't much time left. Better make up your mind.
For the last time, I tell you, I don't know your friend, Mike. You won't even let me know his last name.
You know his name. Tell it to the police.
Hey, look, I'm carrying a gun. If you try to touch me, I'll kill you.
Put it back in your desk. It won't do you any good. You're going to die. And without any company from me.
You're a brave man hiding behind a voice.
I won't have to much longer. Goodbye, Mr. Stevens. This is the last time I'll be calling you. The next time we talk, you'll see me much better than you do now.
No, wait.
I have, too long.
Yeah, I know, Mr. Stevens, but a private detective has other things to do besides running around looking for comedians.
Mr. Harris, I'll pay you any price you want, but I must have your protection.
Sorry, Mr. Stevens, but I can't take the case.
But the man who's been calling me is a dangerous criminal. He's threatened to kill me.
If he does, it'll be a joke on him. Oh, I'm sorry, but you see, I've heard so many similar cases to yours.
How do you account for the telephone call to my apartment?
Well, maybe the switchboard operator is in on the gag. Or maybe it's your imagination.
It wasn't my imagination. There was such a call.
Well, whoever your friend is, he's covered all the angles.
Then will you help me?
No, Mr. Stevens, I'm afraid I can't. It's not in my line. When you have a murder on your hands, look me up.
Take hold of yourself, Roger. You're going to pieces.
What would you do? Somebody's threatened my life. I don't know him. I don't know what he's talking about.
You know, it's just possible that this whole thing is real.
I know it is. Walter. You've got to help me.
What can I do?
Stay here in my office with me, Walter. Stay with me. You'll never come near me with you around.
I can't do that, Roger.
Oh, it's ridiculous. He wouldn't dare harm you. He's just trying to frighten you.
I'm not sure. I don't know. How can I take a chance with my life?
Listen, Roger, you've got to get a grip on yourself. Green wants those blueprints by this afternoon. You know what it means if you fail to deliver them.
I don't care. I can't finish them.
But you must. It'll mean the end of your business if you don't.
I don't care. I don't care. I can't do it.
Roger, come to your senses. Green will be here at any moment. Now, what did you tell him?
Tell him just what I've told you. I'm giving up the plans. The Wilson building can be built by somebody else. You take it over.
Are you sure of all this?
Yes.
You've made up your mind?
Yes. Good heavens. Leave me alone, will you?
All right, Roger. You know what you want. You go over to my place and wait for me there. I'll speak to Green when he arrives.
I can stay with you, Walter.
Of course you can, Roger. Now, don't worry any more about those telephone calls. We'll fight this thing together.
Thanks, Walter. You'll hurry, won't you?
As soon as I can, Roger. Here, I'll walk to the elevator with you.
He said I had until tonight.
It'll probably end then. He's tired of the whole thing himself.
Oh, if I could only be sure.
Here we are.
Look, why don't you come home with me now, huh?
Be reasonable, Roger. I've got to talk to Green about new blueprints for the Wilson building.
Going down, sir?
Goodbye, Roger. And don't worry.
All the way, sir?
Huh? Oh, street level, yes. Say, you're new here, aren't you?
Yes, Mr. Stevens.
Well, that's strange, you're knowing my name.
I saw you come in. I make it my business to know all the tenants in the places I work.
You know, you're strangely familiar to me.
I've worked in a lot of buildings.
No, it's not your face, it's...
Anything wrong, sir?
No, it's nothing.
You were saying something about my being familiar, Mr. Stevens.
No, I was mistaken. Forgive me. What's wrong? Why are we stopping?
I don't know. We're stuck.
What floor is this?
We stopped between the 5th and 6th floors.
Well, use your emergency switch. I've got to get out of here. The lights have gone out.
Yeah, our power's off. We may be stuck here for a few hours.
Well, we can't be. Not jailed up here in this elevator shaft.
You don't have much choice, Mr. Stevens. Yeah, you better make yourself comfortable.
Your voice. Here in the dark. There's something about it.
Oh, is that what you recognize?
No. There's just something about it. It's probably just my imagination.
Well, Mr. Stevens?
Yes. Yes, what is it?
I guess this is it.
What do you mean?
There comes a time in every man's life...
No, stop that. No, don't come near me.
When you pull your ideas together and think of how quickly the years have gone.
No, please, no, don't touch me, please.
Life just seems to slip through your fingers.
No. Ah!
All right, everybody, stand back. Give him a little air, will you?
What's wrong here? What happened to Mr. Stevens?
The elevator got stuck in the shaft, sir. Mr. Stevens, well, he sort of went to pieces.
Stevens, wake up, man. Wake up. How do you feel?
Oh, Mr. Green.
Yes.
The elevator man, he tried to attack me.
Oh, I did nothing of the sort, sir. He just went wild in the car and began screaming like someone was trying to murder him.
Before you had this fit of yours, Stevens, did you finish the plans?
And I didn't do anything to him.
All right, that's enough. I believe you. Well, Stevens?
No, Mr. Green, I'm sorry. Walter Stone is up in my office. He's taking over.
He had better take over everything, Stevens. You're through in this town. I'll see to that.
Hello, Roger.
Oh, hello, Walter.
Came home as quickly as I could. Old man Green was a bit of a problem. It took a lot of convincing that I could finish the plans.
Don't talk to me about the blueprints. I'm not interested.
Oh, what you need is a good rest. Go away and forget about this morbid joke.
You still persist in calling it a joke, huh?
I'm sorry, Roger.
Walter, this is my last night. I haven't gone to the police to confess. I'm afraid. I'm terribly afraid.
What happened to you in the elevator?
Oh, I don't remember it too clearly. I thought the operator was the man who's been phoning me.
I spoke to him on the way down in his car. He told me he was just talking to pass the time when you suddenly seemed to go crazy.
Maybe I am. I don't know.
Take it easy, Roger. It's all over.
Oh, it'll never be over.
What do you mean, never?
I'm going to give myself up.
You really are going crazy.
I don't know the man who's been calling me, but I can't take this any longer. I'm going to tell the police the truth.
The truth?
Yes, Walter. 10 years ago, I did murder a man. His name wasn't Mike. It was George Matthews. He was my partner.
Great Scott, Roger. It's unbelievable.
Why do you think these calls began to drive me out of my mind? If it was just a joke, I'd have ignored these phone calls.
Then you did kill George Matthews in Oak City.
Yes, in Oak City. How did you know it was Oak City?
Why,
I never told you I lived in Oak City. I never told you it was Oak City this fellow Mike was supposed to have been murdered in.
Look, Rogers, stop imagining. I told you it's all over.
And the plans for the Wilson building. You wanted that contract. You always did.
Excuse me, Roger, the phone. I've got to answer.
No, well, I'll answer that phone. Maybe it's our friend.
Roger, I think it would be better if I
would... Walter, I'm going to answer that phone if I have to knock you down first.
Hello? Hello?
Yes?
Well, I guess it's all finished, Mr. Stone. I understand you got the contract. Boy, you should have seen Stevens in the elevator. He almost went nuts.
Would you mind repeating that?
I said he almost... Wait. Who is this?
Go on. What's the rest of it?
Who is this? You're not Mr. Stone.
He hung up.
Roger, please, put that gun away, Roger.
I once warned the voice over the phone that I carried a gun. Didn't he tell you?
Put it away. We can talk this out man to man.
Yes, Walter, you made the same mistake I did. You were too greedy. It never works out. That call that the switchboard operator denied receiving, you planned that also, didn't you?
I didn't know you'd killed a man, Roger. I asked the operator to say she hadn't received any calls, but it was all part of a harmless plan. It was all an accident. I just wanted to frighten you into not finishing the plans. I needed the contract.
Walter, you've given me a brilliant idea.
Stay away from me. Stay away. No, Roger. Please, it was only a joke.
Bad you didn't get the last laugh.
Roger. No.
Operator, get me the police. I want to confess a murder.
From shadows and stillness, mystery weaves a spell of strangest fascination, charging the mind with doubts and fears. For mystery is a strange companion, a living memory in the haunting hour.
The Bah Ghoulie Show is brought to you by OTR Halloween Holidays.